Beneath the surface of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran had been preparing a trap. Not missiles, not speedboats, not drones screaming across the water at 60 knots, something older, quieter, and in many ways more dangerous than any of those threats. Underwater mines laid across the strait in patterns designed to stop the American fleet before it could reach its objectives, and to turn the world's most important shipping corridor into a kill zone that no ship could transit without risk. The American fleet approaching the strait already knew the mines were there. What Iran did not know was exactly how the United States Navy intended to respond. The response was methodical, precise, and brutal in its efficiency. Every mine Iran laid in that water is now gone. At 0300 hours on March 3, 2026, the Strait of Hormuz was no longer a shipping lane. It was a dead end. Over 150 vessels, from crude supertankers to bulk carriers, sat motionless in open water, their navigation lights flickering in the dark. Ship tracking networks showed a gaping hole in the heart of global commerce. AIS signals vanished where the minefield was rumored to start. Insurance rates soared to 16 times their usual level. The world's most vital oil corridor, responsible for nearly 1/5 of global supply, had been choked off not by missiles or gunfire, but by the silent threat of underwater mines. Into this paralysis steamed the American task group, led by a commander who understood that every hour of delay meant billions in lost trade and a rapidly tightening noose on Allied economies. The stakes were absolute. Clearance was not optional. The mission was to restore the flow, no matter the risk. 3 specialists took charge: the mine warfare officer, responsible for mapping the invisible kill zone and plotting every safe corridor; the EOD team leader, trained to send divers and robots into black water, where a single mistake means instant death; the air operations chief, coordinating helicopters and drones to scan, sweep, and strike from above. Each brought a different set of skills, but all faced the same reality: the strait could not be left closed, and the cost of failure was measured in both lives and global stability. The clock was running. The only way forward was through the minefield, and every decision from this point would be made under the pressure of worldwide scrutiny. Iran's decision to mine the Strait of Hormuz was not born from brute force, but from calculation. Planners in Tehran understood they could never match the U.S. Navy ship for ship, missile for missile. Instead, they bet on a different kind of weapon, one that hides in silence and waits. Naval mines, especially the Maham series, are the ultimate asymmetric tool. A few $1,000s worth of steel, sensors, and explosives can threaten ships worth billions. Mines do not need to move fast or shout their presence. They only need to wait. Invisible in the current, their sensors tuned to the magnetic whisper of a tanker's hull or the low thrum of a destroyer's engines. This is the logic of cost imposition. Iran's doctrine draws from decades of watching Western navies. If you cannot win a direct fight, make every step forward dangerous and slow. Each minefield is a message. The price of passage is uncertainty, delay, and risk. The Maham 3 and Maham 7 mines are seated not just in open water, but in coral outcrops and silty beds where sonar returns blur into natural clutter. Their sensor arrays, magnetic, acoustic, and pressure, are programmed to ignore fishing boats and detonate only for high-value targets. This selectivity means a single device can close a lane for weeks, driving up insurance, halting tankers, and forcing the world's most powerful navy to crawl. Iran's commanders count on the minefield not just to block ships, but to buy time. Every hour the strait is closed, oil markets panic, and Allied resolve is tested. But this strategy assumes the U.S. will be paralyzed by the threat. It is a gamble that the hidden, the patient, and the cheap can outlast the fast and the expensive. The next phase will put that assumption to the test. Inside the casing of a Maham mine, the real danger is hidden in its logic, not its explosive. 3 sensors, magnetic, acoustic, and pressure, work together in a silent alliance. A ship's hull distorts the Earth's magnetic field, but the mine's threshold is set tight. Only a flux change between 10 and 50 nanotesla will wake the circuit. A fishing boat or a drifting container is dismissed as background noise. Next comes the acoustic sensor, tuned to the low-frequency thrum below 100 Hz, listening for the engine harmonics of a tanker or a warship. Unless the noise crosses 80 decibels, the mine remains inert. Pressure sensors add a final layer, measuring the surge as a hull pushes water aside. A pulse above 0.5 kilopascals, sustained for several seconds, is the last trigger. The microprocessor demands that at least 2 out of 3 sensors agree within a narrow window. Only then does the arming sequence begin. This fusion logic is what makes the mine so hard to sweep. Minesweepers can simulate 1 or even 2 signatures, but rarely all 3 in perfect sequence. That is why the U.S. Navy's clearance operation must be slow, deliberate, and exhaustive. Every sweep, every pass, is a calculated move against a device designed to ignore error and punish haste. The minefield is not just a threat, it is a test of patience and precision, and the penalty for failure is absolute. Every ship in the American formation throttled back to 3 knots, barely walking speed for a warship. Engines rumbled at idle, hulls creaked, and the fleet compressed into a tight wedge, sonar beams overlapping in a moving shield. The order was clear. No one breaks formation, no one outruns the sensors. A destroyer captain summed it up over the comms: "Speed is our enemy now. We crawl, or we die." Decks bristled with readiness. Phalanx CIWS turrets spun, tracking invisible threats from sea and sky. Surface-to-air missile batteries stood by, locked and loaded, with engagement protocols set for anything closing inside 750 meters. Even the smallest blip on radar drew a dozen eyes and fingers to triggers. The rules of engagement were unforgiving. Hesitation meant disaster. The price of caution was exposure. Slowed to a crawl, the fleet became a magnet for Iranian drones, missiles, and the ever-present possibility of a suicide boat. But there was no alternative. The only way to clear a path through the minefield was to accept this moment of vulnerability, trusting that layered defenses and relentless vigilance would hold. Every sailor knew the real danger now lay beneath the waterline, silent and waiting. Above, helicopters and drones spun up, ready to sweep the unknown ahead. Rotor blades hammered the air as MH-60S Seahawks swept low over the water, towing sonar sleds through the heart of the suspected minefield. Each pass carved a 500-meter wide lane, the sled sensors painting the seabed in real time. Synthetic aperture sonar stitched the underwater landscape into razor-sharp images. Every rock, every shadow, every unnatural line. The crew chief's voice cut through the comms, calling out anomalies, a perfect circle half buried in silt, a cable snaking where no cable should be. Below, autonomous underwater vehicles slipped through the dark, their SAS arrays capturing 3-centimeter resolution images, mapping the field with a precision that left nothing to chance. The data streamed back to the flagship, where analysts built a mosaic of the minefield, each suspicious contact tagged, classified, and ranked by threat. The process was relentless, systematic, and exacting. Within hours, the chaos of the unknown gave way to a target list, dozens of mine-like objects, each one a potential killer. The next phase would demand even more nerve, getting close enough to confirm, and if necessary, destroy. A diver hovers above the seabed, reading the signature of a Maham 7-mine half buried in coral. The device is armed, its anti-handling circuit live. One wrong touch, a shift, a cable tug, a brush against the hull will trigger instant detonation. The EOD leader calls it too risky for human hands. Instead, a remotely operated vehicle, an ROV, slides into position, guided by a technician's steady hand from the safety of a control van. The ROV extends its manipulator, placing a shaped charge 5 meters from the mine's casing. The diver marks the location, then retreats, fins slicing through black water. At 14:32 Zulu, the command is given. The charge detonates. a column of water erupts 30 meters high, sending a shockwave through the coral and silt. The mine's threat is erased in a single, brutal instant. But the aftermath lingers. The explosion scars the reef, sending fragments through an ecosystem already battered by war. A maritime legal analyst notes the dilemma. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, states are told to avoid unnecessary harm to the marine environment, yet the law of armed conflict allows for decisive action when military necessity demands it. In these waters, the line between lawful clearance and environmental cost blurs. For the fleet, there is no time for regret. The path is open, the operation moves on, leaving only a plume of debris and a silent question about the price paid for security. Every mine was a silent dare, and every detonation was a brutal answer. Iran gambled that stealth and patience could outmatch precision and resolve. The strait remains open, but the real question is, what does it reveal when deterrence fails so completely? Drop your perspective in the comments below.